David Heathfield. I'm hosting this session. It's my first time hosting a World Storytelling Cafe session. It's very exciting and an honor for me. John Rowe, our famous host, will be joining later on this morning. And it's a special event because every few weeks we have this event for storytellers, especially from Asia and Australasia, who our usual time in the UK in the evening. It's late at night, so it's 10 o'clock in the morning here in England, and probably sometime in the afternoon in Asia, and sometime late at night if you're coming from Australia or Australasia or with us or on Facebook. And well, Ali is in Morocco, and he's in charge of the technical side. I'm in Exeter. And one other very special thing about today is the first few stories are going to be brought to you by the Indian Storytellers Healing Network. And this is because a member of that network, Sangeeta Sehgal, a wonderful storyteller, passed away early this month due to COVID-19. And we've been remembering her over the last few weeks. And it's our opportunity and honor at the World Storytelling Cafe to remember Sangeeta Sehgal. I met her briefly, a wonderful storyteller, a warm member of the global storytelling community. And I've been asked by one of the members of the group, Soumya Srinivasan, who can't be with us this morning, to tell a story that I learned from Sangeeta, a story that she shared on YouTube. But I'll bring that to you shortly. I really want to ask Jyoti Pandey, one of the members of that network, to take over from me. And then after Jyoti, perhaps Poonam would tell a story. And is that okay, Poonam?
Yes, that's fine. I'll take it.
After Poonam, Geetanjali.
Geetanjali.
And then after Geetanjali, I'll tell the story that I learned from Sangeeta. And then we'll continue the event with storytellers from people joining us. So over straight away to Jyoti. As I said at the beginning, I encourage you to have your cameras on if you're comfortable to do that, because we have a very warm and, you know, the cozy atmosphere of seeing, responding and supporting each other's storytelling. So can everyone mute themselves apart?
Just a moment, David. I wanted to tell you that Sangeeta's husband, Vinay, is here. He's also part of this. I had invited him, and he's there with the name Sangeeta Sehgal. So,
that's wonderful. Can you tell me Sangeeta's husband's name again?
He is logged in through her device. So the name that is coming is Sangeeta Sehgal only. His name is Vinay Sehgal. Vinay
Sehgal. Vinay, we're very, very happy, very honored that you're here with us. Thank you very much.
Hi, David. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. I'm honored.
You're more than 100% welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So straight away, I hand over to Jyoti.
Yeah.
Where are you, Jyoti?
I'm logging in from Bhopal, Central India. A very warm good evening to everyone. It's 4:30. It's 2:30 in India, and thank you so much, David, for thinking of ISHN and inviting us to do a session for the Storytellers Cafe. And before I begin the session, I would like to tell you something about ISHN. We, the members of ISHN, Poonam, Soumya, Geetanjali, and late Sangeeta, had a vision to heal the world with stories. And with that, we started our small organization and did 2 wonderful fests, Watering the Roots. And we look forward to conducting many more in the coming time. As for Sangeeta, there are some people who come into the world with just the purpose of giving. Our Sangeeta was one such person who had so much of love and compassion for everybody. As the sun rises and celebrates, as the stars twinkle and celebrate, the wind blows and celebrate, river flows and celebrate, Sangeeta loved and celebrated life. I'm remembering her. She would have loved, so much love to be a part of it, and so much of enthusiasm. She used to be looking forward to all of our fest. I'm sure she must be watching all of us somewhere up above and giving her blessings. So today the story which I'm going to share in memory of Sangeeta is also about giving. It is called The Magnificent Gift. The story of a little boy. He was like any other boy, except that his mother was queen and father was king, and he lived in a castle. And anything he wanted in the world, he wished, he desired, was available to him. The rooms were full of the toys and things and everything. The whole castle was full of the beautiful things. But for our prince, the only thing that mattered was a small orb which fitted into his pocket. There was nothing else that mattered to him so much in the whole world. And every time he took out the orb and looked at it, he could see the stars shining in the black inkiness, the stars twinkling. And when he held it gently to his ears and shook ever so softly, he could hear the bells pealing and the angels singing. And with that orb in his pocket, and any time he felt a little low, he just had to take out the orb and he felt strong and kind and wonderful. Now you would think the boy was happy. No, he was not. And the reason was his mother, the queen, was unwell. So much so that he could not even go to her room. And for hours altogether, he would stand on the door and peeped in and would listen to her breathing. And when he felt very anxious, he took out the orb, looked at it gently, and ever so gently lifted to his ears, and he could hear the bells and the angels singing. But time passed by, the months passed by, and the queen started getting better day by day. And end of October, the prince was permitted to go to his mother's room and sit on the bed and hold the hands. And how warm and comfortable the hands felt. And then the king, the father, announced there's going to be a huge feast, and each and every person from the kingdom is going to be a part of the merriment and the festivity. And the prince knew people are going to get gifts for his mother, the queen. Mother, tell me, mother, what should I get for you? Ah, your hugs and kisses are the best thing in the world, my prince. No, mama, no, that you can have it every day. I want to give you something marvelous, something magnificent, which no one has ever given you. Tell me, mom, what will that be? The queen closed her eyes for a moment and there was a look of longing on her face as she went back to her childhood. She opened her eyes and told the prince, "As a little girl, my mother had a sprig of rosemary on the window, and throughout the winters, she would cut the sprigs and put them in the soups and teas. And that reminded me of my family, of the holidays, of my brothers and sisters. And I think that sprig of rosemary, if I could put it on my window, would really help me feel better." "You will have it, Mama. You will have it. I'm going to get it for you." The prince said. He jumped out of the bed and rushed to his room and called the servants. "Go to the greenhouse and get me a rosemary sprig." One by one they came. And then the head gardener came. "His Highness, we have all kinds of exotic plants. The lilies, the zerberas, the gladiola, everything in the greenhouse. But as simple a sprig of rosemary, we do not have it in the green." "Then go look for it somewhere. I want it. I really want it." And so the soldiers were sent in all directions to look for the sprig of rosemary. And one by one, they came back empty-handed, for they couldn't find it. Until one day, a soldier came and said, "His Highness, I have found the rosemary sprig. And where is it? Give it to me right now." "Sir, it is with an old lady who lives at the end of the village. And she says it's not for sale." "What? Did you promise him the gold and the silver coins and every possible thing?" "Yes, I did. But she wouldn't part with it." "Get me my royal cape," the prince said. He donned his royal cape and asked for the carriage, and with the servants and entourage, decided to go to the far end of the village. And as he reached there and got down, he saw a very modest hut. He knocked at the door, and the door opened. "Oh, old lady, welcome. Welcome, His Highness. Please come inside. I hear that you have a rosemary sprig, and I want it." "It is very precious to me. It has been handed over to me by my mother, and I cannot part with it. Also, I hear it has medicinal properties, and sometimes I put it in the food I cook for my grandson." And then the prince looked at the corner where was a thin, sickly boy was lying down on the cot. He reached to the boy, bent down, and something inside him told him to take out the gold, that orb, the ball with him. He brought it closer to the boy. The boy looked at it, and the prince could swear he could also see the shining stars in the inky blackness of the ball. Then gently, very gently, he lifted the ball to his ears. And the child smiled. He could hear the pealing of the bells and the angels singing. And then the prince took the ball, put it in his pocket, and once again went back to the lady and requested, I really want the sprig. Could you please give it to me?" She said, I have an offer. Why don't we barter? You give me the ball, the simple ball, and I will give you the rosemary plant. Simple ball? Simple ball? This is the most precious thing to me in the whole world. And I cannot part with it. He put the ball in his pocket, slammed the door, went to the carriage, and went back to his room in the royal castle. He called the royal jeweler, and when he arrived, he told him to make a beautiful, beautiful necklace with rubies and emeralds and diamonds, and said, do not spare any effort. I want it to be the best necklace in the world. It is for my queen mother. It will be done, son. The royal jeweler went, and after 4 days, he came back with the necklace. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. The gold and the diamonds and the rubies and the sapphires against the box shone, and no one had ever seen anything like this. And the prince knew it would look beautiful on his queen mother. After 4 days was the festival. And on the fourth day, he got up early morning and started dressing up for the festival. But somehow, he did not feel happy. In fact, he felt very sad. He could not pinpoint the reason. He decided to dress up in the most ordinary clothes with the ball in his pocket and went out to the street so that nobody could recognize him. He wandered here and there and saw the people getting ready for the festivities in the morning, smiling, chirping, talking. And his steps took him to the door of the old lady, the cottage. He knocked once again. The door opened. Welcome, His Highness, the lady said. Both looked at each other for some time. Then she quietly went inside and took out the rosemary sprig and handed it over to the prince. And the prince took out the ball. And before he could change his mind, he dropped it onto the old lady's hand, and turned back and started walking towards the castle, protecting the sprig from the harsh winter winds. And as he reached the castle, he changed and walked towards the hall. And he could see at the end of the hall, his father and mother were sitting on the throne. And he started maneuvering his way towards them. And his mother's eyes caught his, and there was so much of love. And she smiled. He walked up to the mother, climbed the steps, and said, Mother, I've got your gift. Oh, my hugs and kisses, my prince. No, mother. And he handed out the rosemary sprig to her. She bent down. She smelled, and tears started welling up her eyes. And she went back into the memory as a little girl to her parents' place, running around, playing, and her mother chopping the rosemary sprigs and putting them in the soup. And then the prince backed out, for he knew his mother belonged to everyone today. And as he walked back to the royal garden, he suddenly felt lonely and wanted to take out the ball, but it was not there. And he looked at the sky and saw the stars shining and twinkling. And far away, he heard the bells of the church tolling. And he could swear he heard the angels singing. And suddenly, he felt very strong, very kind and good.
Thank you so much, Jyoti. Hearing the angels singing seems so appropriate. Thank you. And for people who are joining us after the session began, the first few stories today are in memory of a wonderful storyteller, Sangeeta Sehgal, and are shared by friends from the ISHN, the Indian Storytellers Healing Network. And I'm handing straight over to another wonderful storyteller who I've got to know a little, Poonam Joshi. Hi, Poonam.
Hello, thank you, David. And what a lovely story it was, Jyoti. My story is about an animal, how the entry of an animal in our homes can bring so much joy and change the very vibrations of the house. So here I begin my story. The old man climbed the hillock and stepped into the field. He had plucked some grass and had filled a basket. After laying the kid on the bed of the grass, he lifted the basket and gently placed it on his head and started walking. From a distance, he could see the haze, the darkness had begun to settle slowly across the crimson skies in the west. It was time to move homeward. Slowly, he started towards his home. The old man's thatched shed was at a distance from the field. He had to pass through the fields, take the mud track, and then had to cross the lake shore and then trudge through the winding roads that led towards his home. By the time he reached the foot trail, his own shadow had started to fade. It was getting dark. He started walking faster. He saw few men who had come after grazing their goats on the new grass. Oh, he thought, just because of this kid, I am late today. Otherwise, I would have been in my house long ago. He was just thinking when the little kid in the basket started crying. Oh my God, he got angry. This little thing had eaten up my whole day, and now she's crying. But before he could realize what was happening, he saw a few men running towards him, calling out his name. Dhui, Dhui. And he realized something is amiss. So he just stopped wherever he was. The man came close to him and just held him by his arm and steadied him. And then he took the basket from his head and put it on the ground. The man would have fallen flat on his face into the mud. But for this man, he said, he just calmed himself and he breathed heavily and asked, "What's happening?" The man pointed towards the west and said, look there. And what did he see? He saw a large bird flapping its wings and moving towards the hill in the west. He had felt something was trying to pull the basket from his head, but he had held on to it very tightly. The man asked him, "What is it that you hold in your basket that the eagle wanted to hunt?" In the meantime, few more men joined. And they asked him, "Did you get a rat in the field?" Hearing all the commotion, the kid just got up in the basket and made a little cry. "Oh, it was this. this big-sized worm in your basket, was this that the eagle wanted? Laughed the men. And one of them just lifted the kid. Oh, it's a goat kid, is it? It looks like a kitten, some laughed. The man was embarrassed. But still, he tried to put his senses back, and then he thanked them for being there, because had he fallen, he could have broken a few bones. And he realized, with his old woman at home, she would be angry, mad at him. And would she take care of him? Because what he did was just get a little grass and maybe a little money. And that's how she was taking good care of him. He thanked those men, but the men were still amused seeing the little kid. One man suddenly walked up and lifted the kid and said, "It's very weak. I think it's not eaten anything. It's not been fed." And with this man made a huge cry. Woo! All his goats came running towards him. He picked up the nanny goat and put the little kid under the udders. The kid probably had never suckled. It was the first time that the milk reached its tongue. And soon it started sucking the new taste of milk. It was so weak that after a few sucking, its jaws were very tired and it stopped. The man said, "Have a little more. It'll be enough for you. It'll last you through the night." The kid had a little more, and then the man gave the kid to the old man and said, "Now take it home before the eagle turns back." And men returned back towards their goats to take it back home. The old man put the kid in the basket, covered it properly, this time with grass, and started walking home. As he walked home, he kept thinking, what is in store for this little kid? How many more hazards will it have to hold in its life? Will it be able to go through them, or would it survive? These thoughts were on his mind as he reached his home. He reached his home, and his wife was angry seeing the little kid. She howled at him. "We already have 2 goats. Why do we need this one?" The man said he cooked up some stories. He told her that while he was in the field, a demon had come, a demon that looked like Bakasur, and this was probably a gift from him, so he has brought it home. And yes, he told her it's not a kitten, it's a goat kid. She picked it up and she was amused seeing the little thing. "All right," she said, "let me see what I can do with it." She was wondering whether the man was telling the truth or had he robbed it from someone. She was scared. Maybe tomorrow morning, the villagers will come looking for the goat. With those thoughts, she was reminded of her kitten which she had as a child, and she used to call it Punachi. She thought of calling this little kid Punachi, and that night, the little kid got a name, Punachi. So now this woman was so into her family that they would never go anywhere. They had just a little piece of land adjoining their shed. They would just work there from morning to evening, and whatever little grew, they would eat. The man would always go out to get the fodder or even to take the goats to graze in the grass. But this woman, she hardly went out. She would be in the house from dawn to dusk. Their needs were very little. So she would just go once a month to the market fair to buy the groceries. And other than that, she would once in a year go to her daughter, their only daughter. When there was a festival in the village, in the temple, they would go every year for a fortnight. The only desire these two had was to live a life peaceful in their little house. She looked at the kid and she realized it was getting dark. The two of them had never ever lit a candle or a lamp in the night because they would finish their meal before dusk and go to bed. But today it was different. She went and she looked for the largest earthen lamp that she had. She poured some castor oil, all that she had, the one that they had extracted last year. She had no wick, no cotton. Oh, she tore the loincloth of her husband and she made a wick out of it. She put it in the castor oil and burnt it. When she lit, there was little light. She looked at the little kid with lots of love in her eyes. And for the first time after so many years, she felt that she was looking at her own child. She went closer. She touched it. She tried to see if the body had any bruises, any marks, or maybe some bald areas, but there was nothing. It had no bruises at all. The fur was shiny and soft. She felt in the lamplight when she saw it that the face looked very haggard, as if the little one had not had anything for a day. It looked just maybe few days old. And suddenly a desire crept into her heart. She was determined to take this little thing of Punachi and take her to adulthood somehow. Somehow she wanted to keep it. She called out for her husband. He came running and she asked him to get something, maybe milk to feed it. The man smiled and said she had her stomach's fill. And then he started playing with her ears. And he gently said to her, "Aren't you lucky to have come to live with us?" The woman laughed. It had been a long time since there was such a chit-chat in the house between the couple. With Punachi warmly cuddled in their arms, they ended up talking the whole night about the good old days they had spent together. And Punachi, she slept gently in their arms. The kids' sudden entry into their lives had ushered in a new life and a new hope. And Punachi stayed on forever.
Thank you very much, Poonam.
So I'll just tell you the source. The story is one of the stories from a book which has animal stories, all literature from India, and it is written by Perumal Murugam.
Thank you. And am I right to understand that animal stories were very important to Sangeeta?
Yes. And that is the reason I chose, because for her, animal was all love. She could just pick up any animal anywhere on the road. Wherever she went, she was with animals and she would just give all the love that she had.
Thank you very much. A beautiful kid. Does Punaji have a special meaning?
I'm not sure. It was a nickname, so maybe... No, I don't know about the name. I need to find out now that you have asked.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Poonam. It's so happy that you're here. And let's go now
Thank
to
you.
the third of the ISHN members who've joined us to remember Sangeeta Sehgal's life, and that is Geetanjali Shetty Kaul.
Thank you so much, David, for organizing this for us. And my internet connection is quite unstable. Can you all hear me? Yes, thank you. That was a beautiful story, Poonam. It just reminded me the day when my stray kitten was brought home. And, you know, he was tiny. He was almost the size of my palm. And he could like be in any small little corner of the house. And we really felt, you know, if he would survive the next day, if he would live for another week. And I still remember that night when I carried him in my arms and it felt like it was my second baby at home. Yeah, so it just like brought back all the memories. Thank you. This beautiful story. I'm sure Sangeeta would love to hear it wherever she is now. Going forward, my story is going to take all of us to a completely different space. Once upon a time, this is a story of one of those nights when the sky is dark blue and the earth is black. One of those nights when the trees look like long gnarled hands underneath the dark blue sky. One of those nights when you can't see anything. It's pitch dark in the emptiness of the night. Yes, one of those nights when a lone man, an old man, was staggering, holding a lantern in his hand with the candle light getting dimmer and dimmer. Though the boughs scratched on his face, and he walked ahead holding this lamp, half feeling half blinded with the boughs around. His back was rounded like a bag of flour. His sagging, his arms sagging, his thighs sagging. He had turned old, really old, long beard hair. And he was walking, he was breathing, gasping, holding the lantern, taking heavy steps, grasping swallows, and grasping and walking. He was grasping one sapling and the other sapling, and he was moving as the birds, the swallows also were flying around. He was grasping them, moving. Everything was blinding him around, and he was holding the lantern in his hand. His feet was feeling so full of pain. The joints in his feet were paining like fire. His bones were cracking and screeching with the sound of the owl hooting. And the man propelled himself ahead, moving the sapling, breathing in a rowing motion. He stepped, and way ahead he saw a cottage, a home to rest. He saw a tiny flickering light there. He walked, hoping that he was going to reach there. And he was at the doorstep when the candlelight got dimmer and vanished. He fell down at the doorstep, collapsed. Inside the cottage was an old woman sitting next to a beautiful roaring fire. Her eyes was filled with love, her heart warm with love. She heard the hustle bustle at the door, and she hurried. She opened the door, and she gathered this man in full spirit, with all her strength, all her might. She gathered him. Now he was like a sack of bone. And she carried him in his arms, and she sat on the chair. And she began rocking him back and forth, all through the night, singing a lullaby. Oh, all through the night she sang and she sang and she sang. And now when it was not yet morning, the old man had turned into a young man. He had come to his youth with strong limbs and his hair bouncing, lush black hair bouncing in her arms, and his face turning pink. And she continued to rock him. Ah ha 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 ha, ho 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 ho, on the rocking chair. Like how a mother would hold a child. She kept rocking and rocking and rocking. When the morning had just begun to approach, she looked at the boy and she smiled. Yes, the young man now had turned to a boy, little child. His eyes opened and there was a twinkle in his eyes. His teeth were glittering and his face blushing and her hair bouncing, and she still kept rocking. Just at the moment when the morning was just opening, she looked at the boy and she plucked out 3 hairs and she blew it into the fire. And you could hear a sound like this, tsh, 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 when the hair began burning. She rocked and rocked and rocked, and now the boy smiled. He stepped down the rocking chair. He turned and he looked at her with the most dazzling smile. She stood up and she looked at him, and there was a blazing light around her, eyes filled with love and compassion. She looked at him with grace. He kept coming forward and he held her hand. He looked at her and said, "Thank you." He now walked towards the door, stepped down, went through the forest, skipping, hopping, dodging, towards the golden ball that was rising and the glow that filled up the morning like a golden light. And he went there, he stood there. And he went to and fro, he stretched his arms as though he was the most brilliant sun that morning. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Gitanjali. Thank you so much. In fact, it's very, very beautiful to hear that. Did you learn that story from Clarissa Pinkola Estes' book? Do you know what? I've never heard anyone tell that story apart from you and me. So it's wonderful to hear another way of telling that story, and it's a beautiful story. So thank you so much. A story of...
I've also told the story in first person.
Yeah.
So I became the one who was walking in the dark night and reaching the woman's house, and she was my grandmother who rocked me and rocked me. And I came back to become a young girl and dancing around the hills, like the sound of music.
a truly healing story. So I want to say thank you again to Jyoti Pandey and Poonam Joshi and Geetanjali Shetty Kaul, who've been with us this morning and shared stories. They're members of the Indian Storytellers Healing Network, ISHN, and Sangeeta Sehgal, who passed away at the beginning of May, was also a member of that group, and these stories have been told in tribute. And I would like to add one more story to this tribute that begins today's event, and then we'll move on to other stories from you who've joined us from around the world, particularly around Asia. I met Sangeeta a couple of times online, particularly at the Chennai Storytelling Festival back in February of this year. We were in a breakout room together. I heard her storytelling, and I learned a story. I've actually told two stories that I've learned from Sangeeta, both of which I learned from Stories for Healing, which Jim Brulé hosts in New York. Beautiful stories and a beautiful storyteller. So here's one more story, and I'll dedicate this to all of you and also to Vinay, Sangeeta's husband, who's here with us. Thank you for being here. So Soumya Srinivasan, who couldn't be with us today, encouraged me to tell this story. I'm slightly hesitant to tell a story because it is a sacred story from Hinduism, but I'll do it with the best respect, and forgive me for any errors I might make. There was preparation for a great battle, the greatest battle ever fought on Indian soil. The armies were preparing, and the battleground was being cleared. Elephants were brought, led by their mahals, to clear the stones, the rocks, the boulders from the battleground, and to uproot the trees. So great, vast was the battle going to be. When some of the last trees were being removed, one elephant, driven by the mahal, came to a tree and pushed its head, and the tree shook, and from the high branches of the tree there fell a nest. A small sparrow's nest fell to the ground, and fluttering down from the branches came the mother sparrow, chirping in anguish for her chicks. Her young chicks were in the nest, and surely they would be hurt. And she flew down to find the nest intact. And in the nest were the 4 chicks, the 4 dear children. Well, the mother sparrow was glad of that, but still in anguish, because how could she rescue them? They were helpless and there on the ground, and she saw all around the preparation for war. Surely her chicks would be harmed, perhaps destroyed. And at that moment, the distraught mother saw, far away on the other side of the battleground, a golden chariot. And who were riding in that chariot but Lord Krishna himself? And beside Krishna there was Arjun, the great archer, the most accurate of all archers, the great warrior, the proud warrior. And they were riding on the battleground to see that all was clear, all was prepared, for the battle would begin in 2 or 3 days' time. Well, the mother bird saw Lord Krishna at that great distance, and with all her strength the little bird flew and flew and flew and flew across the battleground and reached Krishna's chariot. Well, Arjun, the warrior, tried to brush the bird away, but the bird flew around Krishna's head. Oh, great dear Lord Krishna, my babies, my chicks, they are helpless. Save my chicks. And Lord Krishna had other things on his mind. Little sparrow, don't trouble me. There are greater concerns. But she insisted, my little chicks, I beg you, I pray, let them live. They will be harmed, they will be destroyed by the elephants, by the horses on the battleground. Please save them, Lord Krishna. It is within your power. And Krishna spoke again. Their fortune will be determined by the wheel of time. I have nothing to do with this. But the little sparrow said, you do, Lord Krishna, for you are the wheel of time. It is within your power. Oh, please. And she begged and begged and begged again. And finally, Krishna took pity. Go back to your nest. Prepare food, enough food for 21 days. Well, the mother bird, glad and full of faith, flew back to the nest, the unprotected nest on the ground. And the chariot turned, and away rode Arjun and Lord Krishna. Now, 2 days later, they returned, but not alone. The great armies were gathered. Soldiers on elephants, on horseback. There was silence on the battlefield. But Lord Krishna, who was riding the chariot and who had promised that he would not hold any weapon or fire any missile, said to Arjun beside him, "Pass me your bow and arrow." "Why?" said Arjun. "I am the greatest archer. You have promised not to fire any weapon. Pass me your bow and arrow. Remind yourself of who I am." And he took the bow and arrow from Arjun, and he put the arrow and he aimed it at an elephant. And he let that arrow fly. And the arrow flew far across the battlefield and struck the bell that hung around the elephant's throat. And the bell dropped to the ground. And he handed the bow back to Arjun. And Arjun said, "If you wished to kill that elephant, Lord Krishna, you should have asked me. The elephant is unharmed." Krishna said nothing. "Arjun, it is time for the battle to begin. Blow on the conch." And silence fell on the battlefield. A breath. And then the raging began. A battle beyond our imaginations. A battle that is not to be described in this story, because this is not the central theme of the tale I am telling. But all I will say is blood flowed, and bodies lay strewn on the battlefield, day after day and night after night. For 18 days the armies fought, and many heroes' lives were lost. But after those 18 days, the chariot appeared on the bloody battlefield, and in the chariot were victorious Arjun and Lord Krishna. And they rode among the bodies, and Arjun looked to see which great heroes should be buried in ceremony, for he had a lot of love, not just for those who had fallen on his own side, but for those who had been lost on the other. But Krishna said, "Stop here, Arjun. You see that bell on the ground? Pick it up. A bell, said Arjun. Why pick up a bell? There are bodies to be buried with honour. Remember who I am, said Lord Krishna. And Arjun reached down from the chariot and he picked up the bell where it had fallen from the elephant's neck. And you know that from under that bell flew 5 little birds, the mother sparrow and the 4 fledgling birds now grown to enough maturity that they could fly, fed for 18 days under that bell. They had strength and they flew powerful and free up into the sky. And the mother circled again around Lord Krishna's head, singing in gratitude the protection that he had given her children. And Arjun looked at Krishna. Great Lord Krishna, why did I ever doubt you? Why did I ever forget who you are? So this story I learned from Sangeeta Sehgal. And what a beautiful story. A story of a mother's protection. And I know Sangeeta was a mother. I would like to say, on behalf of the World Storytelling Cafe, and I feel on behalf of many people who are watching this live or as a recording, I would like to offer this story as a message of protection, a wish of protection for all of you in countries which are suffering huge hardship and great crisis and threat from the current pandemic. So, sending you love and protection. And may I now pass over to the next part of our gathering this month. We've got several people in the room who are here to share stories. And the first of those, I believe, is going to be the storyteller that I've heard more stories from than anyone else in this room. And she's also the youngest person who's going to share today. So Jasname, who's in Punjab, comes every week to Young International Storytellers on Tuesdays at the World Storytelling Cafe. And Jasname has shared platform with me at the Hands Up Project as well, and is one of the storytellers I most admire in India or anywhere in Asia. So Jasname, will you tell us the next story?
Yes, I will tell the next story. May I start?
Please do.
Hello everyone, my name is Jasnami and I'm 12 years old. I live in India, Punjab. A long time ago, there was a boy who lived in Nepal. His name was Kanchan. The boy loved flowers. He liked flowers here and there and everywhere. He just wanted to live with flowers. And then he planted a flower. Burst into bloom. Up came beautiful, colorful flowers, bushes, and even big fruit trees. As by magic, everyone in the whole kingdom loved flowers. The kingdom was full of flowers. Owing to the emperor, he liked birds and animals. And the most of all important for him was the flowers. He loved them. He used to go to his own garden and plant seeds. First, bloom up beautiful flowers. Now the emperor was old. He was very old to keep the throne, as he believed that he can die any time. So he had to find a successor to the throne. But how would he choose? And who would it be? He thought. And then Emperor said, I love these flowers. Now these flowers will decide who will be the next emperor. Okay, so let's hear how. Now, there was a minister who went to the kingdom and said, listen, listen. The emperor is asking all the children to come to the palace. And whoever will grow his seed into a flower will be the new emperor. Again he went, listen, listen, all through the kingdom. All children excited. We will go, we will go. We want to be the emperor. And then the parents too. And they all went to the kingdom, palace. And the emperor was shocked to see the number of children who wanted to be emperor. And then the emperor said, as you heard, I will give you a seed and you have to sow it in a pot and make a beautiful flower out of it. And everyone took the seed from the emperor and went to home. Now Kanchan was the most excited boy, as he knew how to grow flowers, first bloom up into beautiful flowers. And then he took it and went to home. He took a beautiful pot that was decorated, put some soil and planted the seed. He watered it daily. Days passed, but he saw nothing grew. He was a little tensed. How will this flower grow? And then he thought that I will put more rich black soil that this plant grows. He took out all the soil and one seed and planted and put some rich black soil and planted the seed again. And now months passed by, but he saw no result in his pot. It was still empty without a flower. Now finally, 1 year had passed away. It was spring season, where flowers blew and all the kingdom was very happy. Now all the children were gathered as they had to go to the palace. They wore nice clothes and they were dressed up. Everyone in their pot had beautiful flowers, different type of flowers. But Kanchan, sad boy, did not have any flower. He had an empty pot. So he also gathered with the children, and a wise child said, "Oh Kanchan, don't tell me that you are going to take this empty pot to the palace. What big fool are you?" And Kanchan said, I tried a lot. I put so much soil, but my plant did not grow. I have nothing else to take it. This is only the thing. And they all went to the emperor. And now they were standing in a line, a big queue with children, with having their pots with different beautiful flowers. And then the emperor came and saw everyone's flower. And he was frowning. He didn't feel happy. He saw one had another flower, everyone had different. And finally, he reached to Kanchan. And he asked Kanchan, "Why have you bought this empty pot?" And Kanchan started to cry. I tried a lot, but nothing grew from that seed. I tried very much. What should I do? I tried very much. I put rich soil. I took a big pot. I decorated it. And now, hearing these words, Emperor's smile slowly spread over his face, and he put his arm around Kanchan and said, "I have found the emperor! I have found the emperor!" And he said, "Kanchan, you are the emperor because the seeds I gave you were cooked and they were impossible to cook. They were impossible to grow into flowers. I admire your great courage to appear before me with an empty truth and an empty pot. I reward him with my kingdom, and now feel this is your kingdom. Thank you.
Jasname, as always, you told that story magnificently.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful story. He got what he deserved.
Yes.
Well, everybody, before we move on, I just want to talk about a possible running order for the rest of this session. And I think Kahani Watchak Swati is going to tell us a story before she has to leave. And after Swati, we'll leave India and we'll just go beyond the border to Nepal. And Binod, will you tell a story after Swati?
Okay,
And
I'm ready.
after Binod, maybe we'll stay in Nepal and go to Sika Gurung. Sika, would you tell a story after Binod?
Sure, David.
And then we'll go to South Korea, to An Suk. And then Kimaya, are you going to share a story today?
Okay.
Wonderful. And that's back in Nepal. And then Irshad Barkat. Is Irshad still here? Yes, you're still here. Maybe Irshad, you could go after Kimaya. And then Sui Yen in Singapore. And maybe Bina Gurung. Bina, would you like to tell a story today? Let me know. And I think Vina is going to close the session later on. So that's the plan. Hope that's okay. Let me know in the chat if there's any, if I've missed you out, or if you need to change the order. But right now, let's stay in India. Swati, Kahani Watchak Swati, a wonderful storyteller who I know well. Hi, Swati.
Hi, David. Thank you so much. Since I've got the opportunity today, I would like to narrate a story that I've recently written. And I'll just give you a small background. I was tested positive and I was locked up in a room for a few days. And that gave me the opportunity to start writing a few stories, and I've penned down a few short stories. This is one of them. So I'll just start the story. This is about a woman. And I would say this is partially true. So I'll just start with the story because I have still not given it a name. So maybe you could suggest a few names after I finish the story. This story is about Anya. So Anya got up in the middle of the night to have water. And she could feel her throat go dry, like it's summertime in India, and she could feel some thirst. So she got up. But the moment she opened her eyes, she almost shrieked in horror. There was a stranger sleeping right next to her. She sprang up on her bed. She sat down suddenly, and her thoughts were running in her mind. She didn't know what to do. How could a stranger enter her house and have the guts to sleep next to her? She could recognize that person, and she didn't know who to call. At first, she remembered her mom, and she just picked up her phone, and without making a lot of noise, she softly stepped out of the room. After moving out, she first thought of getting into her parents' room and wake her mom up. But when she got inside the second room, it was empty. She quickly switched on the lights and she looked around. This house, it looked strange. This was not her home. She quickly stepped out of the room and went to the hall. It was a strange night. She couldn't recognize a thing. She was so lost, she didn't know what to do. In fact, it was not a stranger who was in the house, but it was she who was in a stranger's house. She picked up the phone and dialed mom. That was the best she could. She was shivering with fear and anxiety. She didn't know what to do. So she softly spoke to mom. Mom, pick up the phone, mom. After a few rings, mom picked up the phone. She said, hi, honey. Hi, dear. How are you, baby? What's the matter? Why are we calling up at this hour of the night? Anya was still shivering. She said, Ma, do you know what's happening? There's a stranger in this house. Rather, I'm in a stranger's house. Where are you? I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. Mama asked her to calm down. She said, dear, did you take your medicine, the pills that you're supposed to take every night? She couldn't remember anything. She was in a shock. She said, what pills? I don't know, but you please get me out of here, or shall I call the cops? I'll need your help. Even if I call the cops, I'll have to shut this person in a room. I'm scared, Ma. Can you come? Mama calmed her down. She said, take deep breaths, calm down. Listen, Anya, you're in your house. That person sleeping next to you is your husband. You got married last month. You'll have to understand that you're going through a phase. You're forgetting things. Go inside, pick up the pills, and eat 2 pills out of it. Anya followed. She tried to breathe. She was feeling a bit calm now. So she took the pills. And then mom said, you go back to sleep. I'll talk to you in the morning. So Anya followed what her mom was saying and she went back to sleep. Next morning, Anya wakes up to see Rohit bringing in tea for her. She smiles at him and Rohit smiles back. He comes to her and texts, how are you feeling now, Anya? She says, I'm feeling fine, thank you. Thanks for the tea. He said, do you know you almost got me caught yesterday, last night? You were almost calling the police. Anya remembered a bit and she was feeling very shy for what she did last night. She was feeling a bit shameful, but she couldn't help it. And then Rohit told her, don't worry. From now on, I take the responsibility of giving you your pills till the time you're fine. And we'll tide over this time together. Anya was really thankful that she had Rohit by her side. She finished her tea and went off to take a bath. In the meanwhile, Rohit received a call and he stepped out to take the call. He was talking to a friend Anya could hear. But she couldn't hear clearly what Rohit was talking. Well, I'll tell you what Rohit was telling to his friend. Rohit mentioned that he had lost his wife a few months back and he was devastated. He had locked himself in a room and he didn't want to live any longer. But then, one evening, he got a call from Anya's mom. And she told him that Anya had lost her husband to COVID. And she was in a very bad condition. She could not remember anything. She was locked in a room. She didn't want to meet anyone. She was in a bad, pathetic condition. And Rohit was telling that he forgot his anxiety, his loss, and he went to help Anya. When he went there, he realized that the only remedy that he could give to Anya was to take her out of this anxiety and this sadness, was to get married and settle down and make her normalize. And that's what they did. There was a quiet marriage that happened. And after that, Rohit took Anya to his house so that she could calm down and they could begin a normal life very soon. So that was the story of Anya and Rohit. That's how they ended up together. And that's my story. And it's a bit funny, but post-COVID, I was not able to sleep. And one night I just saw my husband sleeping next to me. And somehow I got this idea of the story and I wrote the story down. So that's the story.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you for bringing us another kind of story. And I didn't know that you'd tested positive. Are you well on the road to recovery?
Yes, I am.
I'm very happy to hear that.
Thank you.
And this is one of the series of stories you've been sharing on Facebook. You've called them COVID diaries and Corona diaries. So if anybody wants to catch up with their amazing collection of very realistic stories about what's happening right now. They're fascinating. So thank you so much.
I'm sorry, David, I'll have to leave because I have kids waiting for lunch. I still have not had my lunch, so I'm sorry, I'll leave now.
Sure, and that's a good opportunity for me to remind people that this isn't just a live event. All the events at the World Storytelling Cafe are shared on Facebook and also kept as an archive, so you can watch this anytime if you want to come back to it and revisit a story or watch parts you might miss. It's here, for the long haul. I'm just sharing in the chat. I'm sharing the running order for the rest of the session, and I just said, let me know if it doesn't work for you. So we've got running order. We've got next is Binod, then Sika, Ansuk, Kimaya, Irshad, Suyen, and Vina. And I know there are a couple of people who aren't in Asia who are with us, but I think because of time, we'll focus on the people who are joining us from Asia today. So let's go over the border from India to Binod. And Binod, Duwadi, where are you? Are you in Kathmandu?
So I'm nearby Kathmandu. So right now I'm in my father's home in Dhadin district, just nearby Kathmandu.
Welcome to your first visit to the Zoom room.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm a bit nervous actually. Why? Because I'm the first male present for this afternoon.
I'm male as well.
And beside that, I'm the first. This is my first time to share my short story in this session. So, am I being clearly heard?
Crystal clear.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I have heard very beautiful stories from my, from other participants who have shared their beautiful stories. Today I'm going to share my shortest story. I don't think it will take more than 5 minutes. Let me share my story. The title of my story is Another Little Girl Can See Clearly Now. So this is the topic of my story. 3-year-old Rima lives in a village in Dhadin. This is small, naturally beautiful part of this country, Nepal, which is adjacent to the northwest part of India, just south of China. When Rima started walking at the age of 1, she didn't progress the way most children do and kept bumping into things. By the age 2, her mother could see that Rima's eyes didn't track properly when she was watching the chickens in their hand. An outraged worker told Rima's mother about a Tilganga supported eye clinic in Kathmandu, Nepal's largest city. Her mother had never traveled to the city, but she put Rima in her fanciest dress and made the journey. At the eye clinic, Rima was seen by Dr. Sandurvait, Kathmandu's sole pediatric ophthalmologist. He relies on government eye hospital like Tilganga to provide funding so he can take care of the many children in this country who have vision problems but whose families cannot afford eye care. Dr. Ruit diagnosed Rima with severe myopia or nearsightedness. Our family could never have afforded the exam for the corrective lenses. But thanks to Tilganga eye donors, Rima received a pair of pretty pink eyeglasses that correct her vision. Her glasses have enabled Rima to become an animated, outgoing child. who runs around the place with other children. Moreover, Rima will be able to attain kindergarten this fall and make the most of her education with clear vision. Now my story is over. Thank you so much everyone for listening to me. Now Rima can go to school with beautiful eyes, with pink glasses. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Binod.
I think I should leave now. Actually, I have to go to my online classes. Still, I have been in online classes. I have to run it, and hoping to join again.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have a first-time visitor at the World Storytelling Cafe this time. And Binod, can I just ask, is that story a story that you created yourself, or is it a well-known story in Nepal?
Just I heard that Rima is that pseudonyms. Actually, I had heard this story of someone. Then I thought about, and then I heard some of the parts of the story. Based on that, just I created that. Thank you so much.
Vino, can I, sorry, just come in and cut in. Vino, just to mention, if you're going, that the next session like this is on Saturday, the 26th of June.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much, John. I'm happy to see you.
Yeah, I'm happy to see you as well, John.
And I'm lucky to see that I have seen my friend Shikha Gurung from the same university. She is my senior friend. Okay. I'm feeling as if I'm in home, actually.
Everyone feels at home here.
Okay.
So thank you. Okay. John Rowe, who's the regular host of the World Storytelling Cafe, is with us. Shall I carry on the hosting, John? And
please, I've just been storytelling at a folk festival, so online festival. So I'm very happy to just sit back and just do some announcements at the end. So David, you're obviously doing a magnificent job. I can see how many smiles are here and how many of your friends are on here.
Well, they're still here, so it must be going all right. But it's been wonderful so far. We've had some beautiful stories in tribute to Sangeeta Sehgal, and her husband joined us, which was a real honor. And now we're going to stay in Nepal to go to Binod's colleague Sika, who is a familiar face. I've met Binod online before, but never face to face, so that's wonderful. But Sika I've known for a good while, and I think maybe the only person here who I have met in person. So over to you, my storytelling sister in Nepal.
Thank you, David. Thank you, so sweet of you. Namaste, everyone. I'm Shikha. I've brought a very short and a folk tale from Nepal that I used to hear when I was a small girl, and I don't know why I really enjoyed that story, and I still remember it today, and I love to tell that story to my children at home. So yeah, once in a small village of Nepal, there lived a very mean husband and wife. Very mean, you can't imagine. The husband used to say, "I don't like guests at my home." And the wife agreed to him. He said, "Yeah, I hate them. I mean, why do they come to our house? I don't like sharing my place and my food with them." The husband added, "Yeah, they better stay away from us, stay away from our home." So this was how they thought about guests. But one unfortunate day for them, a guest arrived at their home. He was their uncle, the husband's uncle's son, who had come from the village. When the guest came inside, of course, definitely the husband and the wife frowned. They were like, what the hell? Why did they come? Why did he come to my home? Oh God, how are we going to shoo him away? And then but they had to pretend, you know. So when the uncle's son came inside the house, they were like, yeah, welcome, come in, sit down. And then the uncle's son could not feel that they were not happy to have him there. After some time, the husband suddenly shouted. He shouted at his wife, and he said, "How dare you, Buri, wife, I don't like your behaviors." And then the wife replied in the same manner. She was like, yeah, that's a mutual feeling. I don't like you too. You're such a bad husband. The husband said, what about you? Please look at yourself. What kind of a wife you are? You don't cook well, you don't wash well, you don't keep my house well, you don't behave well. You are the worst wife I've ever seen. That outraged the wife. And the wife was at a full anger, and she was like, what did you tell? I am not the perfect wife. Who's going to tell about you? What about you? People say that you are even the best example of the worst husband anybody can have in this world. Both of them continued their argument. And then while shouting at each other, they slowly went inside the room. The guest did not know what to do. It was like, okay, you know, he didn't know what to do, how to react, whose side to take, the brother or the sister-in-law. So he thought, okay, I'll remain quiet. But from inside the house, he could hear the oral argument going on and on and on for some time. And after some time, that fight, that quarrel, you know, it reached its height when they started beating and bashing and punching and kicking, and then a lot of sounds coming from inside of the house. Now the guest could not stay there any longer. So he just went out of the house. After some time of quarrel, after some time of fighting and punching inside the house, the husband peeped outside the door and he said, wife, I think the guest is gone. The wife followed the husband and she said, yeah, he's gone. Yes, give me 5. You know? And then the husband said, now you must appreciate my talent. You must appreciate my acting talent, my dear wife. I acted so well that he believed that we were into the fight. And then the wife said, why are you taking the credit to yourself only? What about my acting? Talk about my acting also. I was not bad as well. I was like so good. I pretended so well. I mean, when you pretended to hit me, I pretended to cry back. So it's not you only who's talented. But suddenly when they were having this conversation on who was more talented, the guest from outside the gate came inside and peeped through their house inside the room and said, and how about my acting of going away, my dear brother and sister-in-law? How did you think I acted? Thank you. That is all.
Sika, thank you for bringing some comic relief to our session. Lovely, wonderful laugh. Thank you so much. And I think I can be fairly confident that we're staying in that kind of jovial frame of mind as we head east to South Korea, to our another favorite regular here at the Asian Australasian Storytellers, Ahn Suk Kim. And I think I know what's coming, Ahn Suk, so over to you.
Hello, everybody. I am Ahn Suk Kim. I'm from South Korea. I live in Daegu. And you know what? Every time my trouble is when I heard so focused on other storytellers' great stories, I almost just erased in my mind all the story I prepared. So today I have to It's every time it happen, and I hope it just revive again. My story is donkey's fart, 나귀 방귀 in Korean. And you know what? Everybody farts every day, and even the animals. So in my story, what happened, in the donkey's fart? Let's see. Once on a sunny spring day, a man was traveling on his donkey. He sat on his donkey's back and moved his body back and forth. He was holding his head high and humming a song. He really enjoyed this comfortable ride. He didn't care about how much his donkey suffered carrying him such a long way. Then, on the road, he met another man. The man was carrying heavy bags on his back. The heavy bags weighed down on him, and he was busy moving along. No time to put the bags on the ground and take a rest. So he was sweating and breathing hard. Oh, what a poor man he was. Just imagine on the road, side by side, one man was riding his horse, enjoy the traveling, and the other man was carrying heavy bags and breathing hard, sweating. After walking for some time, the man with the heavy bags on his back was really tired, and he called the other man and said, "Hey, Mr. Donkey Rider, could you please could you help me? If you load my bag on your donkey's back for a while, I will really appreciate it." But the man on the donkey frowned and shook his head. "No, you know what? If you put your bags on my donkey, then where can I sit? I have to go far distant, and my donkey will be tired." No, never. So the man with the heavy bags asked again, "Oh, please, you don't have to load all of my bags on your donkey. Just put one bag on your donkey. It will not take up much room, but for me, it makes a big difference, just for a while." But the man on the donkey didn't show any sympathy to his companion, and he just shook his head again. "Oh, that's the same. You know what? It will take away my seat. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I can't." So the man with the heavy bags on his back, he gave up on getting a favor from this, donkey rider. So they kept walking, one man walking and the other man riding for a while. Then they came to a crossroad, and one man was heading to the right, the other man was heading to the left. Before they departed, the man with the heavy bags, he just called the other guy, the donkey rider, and said, "You know what? I'm an amateur fortune teller, and I can see your fortune today. Want to hear?" So the man on the donkey was curious. What fortune? What fortune do I have? Any good luck do I have today? "No, you have a bad luck today." "Bad luck? What bad luck?" "When your donkey farts 3 times, you will be hurt badly." What What a nonsense. No, silly man. Just mind your own business. Have a nice day. Bye. But the man with his back said, it's already too late for me. But you know what? Don't forget what I said. Bye. Then he went away. So the man on the donkey was now alone, and he felt much better without the annoying company. So he began to sing a song again, moved his body back and forth. Oh, what a beautiful day. He just enjoyed. And until his donkey farted. Boom! When he heard the sound, he remembered the man's warning. When your donkey farts 3 times, you will be hurt badly. No, it's nonsense. But in his mind, he just kept thinking, if my donkey farts twice more, then will I be really hurt? Oh, what should I do? He began to worry. Then it ruined his joyful ride. He stopped singing. He stopped moving his body back and forth. And he was very careful. He thought, if I move my body, then my donkey will feel heavy, and it may cause my donkey to fart. I should be just still, like that. But however careful he was, his donkey farted again. Boom! Oh my God, why are you farting again? Now the man was obsessed, paranoid. If the donkey farts one more time, then, oh, I will be badly hurt. Maybe from a thief or from a tiger. Oh, where the danger comes. Oh, what should I do? I should stop my donkey farting. So he just now got down from his donkey and held the rein and walked by the donkey just slowly, carefully. Oh, what should I do? Then he thought a good idea. Okay, he stopped his donkey and he looked around and he found a stone, a proper size. Then he picked it up and he went behind the donkey. And you know what? He bent his body and he stuffed the stone into the donkey's asshole. He thought, this will keep my donkey from farting. I felt relieved, really. Oh, it will be okay. Then he kept walking with his donkey. But soon he was worried again. He was nervous. And I wonder if the stone had plugged in the donkey's asshole correctly. If not, it would, oh no, I should have checked. And he stopped his donkey and he just, went behind the donkey and he went close to the donkey's ass and tried to check. Just then, unfortunately, his donkey farted one more time. This time, oh, it was a strong blow and the gas pushed so hard and the stone, you know what? The stone hit him straight in the forehead. Ah! Oh, he grabbed his head and, he cried, oh, the donkey's fault has killed me. The donkey's fault has killed me. And so painful, he just collapsed and cried. The man who was carrying his heavy bag was right. When the donkey farted 3 times, this man was hurt badly. And he should have been kind to others. Thank you.
You were warned, Ansuk. You do it every week. Every time we, not every week, every time we meet, you make you. What an incredible bit of humorous storytelling. I think everybody was laughing so hard, and we could all anticipate what was coming.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, that's Ansuk in South Korea, and we're going to head back to Nepal, and we're going to meet Kimaya. And Kimaya is another young storyteller. We had Jasname earlier, who told the story from Punjab, and I'm fortunate because I am one of Kimaya's teachers, coaches at the moment. So we've had some storytelling coaching together, and Kimaya is a wonderful young storyteller. So over to you, Kimaya.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Namaste. I'm Kimaya. Before I start my story, I'd like to thank Miss Ansuk from Korea. Your story was hilarious. It was so fun, and everybody before her. And I'd like to start my story now. Oh, and this story, although we have reached the second half of the meeting, I'm still gonna dedicate this story to Miss Sangeeta Sekal. She was an amazing storyteller, and I never met her personally or talked to her, but I have watched some of her recordings, and her personality shone through. She was beautiful inside and out, just like a butterfly. So my story is going to be connected to butterflies. So I'm going to start. Long ago, when the world had just been born, flowers were looking for their homes. Roses found a place for themselves in deep loamy earth. Hydrangeas found a place for themselves in moist land. Cactuses loved the desert, and so on. One by one, flowers found a place for themselves, and soon the world was a wonderful, beautiful, colorful place. But not all flowers found a place for themselves. Not right away. Oh, that's too high and dry. Or, oh, that's too low. I don't think I'll be able to grow. They kept looking and looking, and they went on and on and on, and to this day they're still going. And whenever they meet their fellow flowers, they fly up to them. The flowers whisper and ask, "Have you found a home yet?" "No. We're still looking," say the butterflies. And until this day, those flowers are flying as butterflies. So that's my story. Thank you. It's a short story, but it's my favorite. It's from one of my favorite storytellers, Mr. Norman Perrin. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimaya. Beautifully told. Thank you so much. What a lovely dedication.
We tell them she's my granddaughter. Answer, Kimaya is my granddaughter.
Bina, you are justifiably proud of Kimaya. Bina,
well done, Kimaya.
Bina, thank you for introducing me and us to Kimaya. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Wonderful. So, in Pakistan. And I apologize, Irshad, because of course, Sika is not the only person I've met in person, live, face to face. I met Irshad at the IATEFL conference in England, like I met Sika in Brighton. You remind me, Irshad. It's lovely that you're here again. Yeah, and how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, David. I am improving, and I've got back to life after that corona bout. So, can you hear me well? I just need to make sure that the voice is clear.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
I actually had some problems with the mic, so I thought it might not be clear. So it's been wonderful listening to all the storytellers and especially the young ones. That has been the highlight of the things, and hilarious, remarkable. So would you like me to start?
Please do, Irshad. Please tell us your story.
All right. So I was, sorry?
Irshad.
All right. So my name Irshad actually means please go ahead and tell it. Okay. So Irshad means that. So so that's why Sika has this way of saying this to me, and she teases me quite a lot about my name. So that's all right. Since the mood has lightened up, I had thought of a slightly serious story by an author, Saki. It's basically a Scottish author, but he has an Iranian name. But then I thought that since the mood is light, so I should go for something lighter. And the story that I told in Brighton. So can I repeat that, David?
Can you squeeze it into 10 minutes?
Yes, of course, I will do that. All right. Yeah, I remember that because David gave me 3 minutes in Brighton and it took 10. So I'll remember that. So the story is about Soapy. It's an American, it's by O. Henry. He's an American author. It's called The Cop and the Anthem. Okay. So it's about Soapy, a man around 40 years of age. He's homeless. He has been spending his summer in Madison Square, in the park, and lovely, cool nights, and nothing has been troubling him. But he had started noticing a few changes in weather. The trees, the leaves of trees were getting brown, and there was chill in the wind, and he had been trying to protect himself to sleep properly, but he wasn't even managing to do that. So he came up with an idea of using newspapers to stuff in his trousers and under his jacket, but it wasn't working for him. So he knew that winter in New York was going to be quite harsh. So if he had to survive, he had to find a shelter to survive the 3 months of bitter, cold winter. There were lots of possibilities for him to go to live in areas. There were shelters for homeless people. There were other people who were offering shelter to homeless people in their homes. But he did not like he did not like it that people pity him. He did not want to, he had this feeling of honor about himself. So he said, why should I go to people and they'll be asking me questions? Why don't you work? Why don't you earn money? Why don't you buy a house? Why don't you live somewhere? So he did not want it. So he had one solution in his mind. And that was a solution where he was not going to be disturbed. Nobody was going to ask him questions. He was going to get a bed, some blankets, food, and no problem at all. And 3 months will pass in no time. Would you like to, I want you to guess of the idea that he had about spending his winter and where he would get the food and no disturbance by anybody else. It's open to you. Please go ahead. You can unmute your mic. I just want ideas.
Maybe in the subway.
All right.
Subway makes good sandwiches.
Yeah. That's right. But he had a better idea that he thought that he should commit a minor felony, get arrested, and go to jail. And the minor, the shortest sentence was for 3 months. And he knew that was the best thing to do. There would be no disturbance. So now he had to commit a crime. He had to do something for which he should be arrested. So the first idea that came to his mind was, now this is where his struggle starts. He was on a street where there were lots of flashy showrooms and there were windows, there were things, expensive, bright colored things displayed in showcases and all that. So he had an idea. He picked up a large stone and smashed the front window of a store and stood there. Out came the security guard running. And he said, "Do you know where the man who broke this window go?" Now Soapy says, "Well, he didn't go anywhere. I'm here. I did it. So go ahead, arrest me." And what do you think the security guard said? He said, "Are you out of your mind? The person who breaks a window, would he be staying here? Now come on." So he spotted a man running down the road and he said, "You're a madman." And then he started running after this one. And so he stood there waiting and wondering why he had been unsuccessful. His attempt was a failure. Then he found another one. He thought of another idea. In the square, he found a policeman. He was managing traffic and all that. And he went up to him and started yelling at the police officer. He said, "That is the best thing. I mean, the police officers would never let you go for doing this kind of, showing this kind of behavior." But the policeman turned and started looking the other way. Then Soapy went in front of him again. He said, well, he started yelling at him again. There was another man walking by and he said to the policeman, "Why don't you arrest this insolent fellow? He has been making fun of you. He has been abusive and reckless and all that. But why don't you do that?" The policeman said, "Well, you know, today our deputy said that people are out. It's the weekend. They are going to have fun. So maybe they are going to drink a bit and get out of their mind. So we have been told not to arrest anyone." So there goes Soapy's attempt. So he went. He started thinking of another idea. Around 50 yards away, he spotted a young girl, a lady in her 30s, alone. He thought, now, if the policeman did not arrest me for this, he must arrest me for what I'm going to do next. So went up to the lady and stood around 2 yards away. And the girl started looking at him curiously while this man is actually standing and staring at me. But she did not budge from her place. So Soapy got some strength, mustered up some courage and took a couple of steps towards her. The girl now noticed something that he was up to no good. So what she did, she took a step away. Sophie took another step. Now the policeman started paying attention to them. And encouraged by his success and the girl not going anywhere, Sophie went up to the girl and said, "Hello, can I go for a coffee?" The girl said, "Well, why didn't you ask me first? If it was about food and coffee, I thought you were up to you were up to no good." So, do you think Sophie went with her? No, he didn't. So that was never his intention. Then, right across the road, he spotted another opportunity. He saw that a man had gone into a bookshop and he had left his umbrella outside, and he thought that he had an opportunity. He went up to the shop, took that umbrella, and started walking. And the man came running out of this bookshop. "Hello, mister, this umbrella." She says, "Yes." Sophie turned, "Yeah, this umbrella. What about it?" So "It's mine." "So, you want it? Take it." And the man said, he stood there flabbergasted about Sophie's attitude, but Sophie stood there defiant and all, and said, "Hello, there is your umbrella. You want it?" And he started walking. But he noticed something. There were no footsteps behind. And he turned around after 4 or 5 steps. He said, he saw that the man had not moved from his place. He was still at the door of the bookshop. He said, "Don't you want your umbrella, mister?" And the man said, "Well, if it is yours, you can take it. I only found it at the railway station. It's not really mine. So go ahead, walk away with it." And Sophie threw that umbrella with all his might into the street and started walking away. Now, when he thought that my attempt in this market area, all my attempts in the market area have been unsuccessful. So what I should do is go to the residential area. And he moved into the residential area, and suddenly he was attracted by soulful music coming from a building. As he neared that building, he noticed that it was a church, and people were singing hymns. He started paying attention, and people were talking about hope. They were singing about mercy. They were talking about hard work, value of blessings and everything. Then a sudden feeling of shame dawned upon Sophie, and he started feeling bad about himself. He said, "You're a 40-year-old man. You're strong. You even have been offered jobs, but you haven't taken because of those offers because of your slackness. Sophie, you are such a bad person. But now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this message. I'm going to attempt to get this blessing of God. I'm going to work. I'm not going to beg. Why should I go to jail? I'm not a criminal. Why should I be doing this thing? I am going to make a life for myself. I am not going to let circumstances rule my behavior." He was getting so pent up and emotional and all excited about this. And suddenly, he felt a heavy hand on his shoulder. And he turned around, and that's where he noticed a cop in New York. And the cop said, "What are you doing here?" And Soapy was still in his emotions and he said, "What do you mean I'm doing here? I'm a free citizen of this state. I can be anywhere." So, "No, what are you doing outside this church?" He said, "Well, I told you I'm a free man. How can, you can't question me." The policeman was in no good mood. He was quite unlike the one who was outside, who he had met in the Madison Square. So the policeman arrested him there, took him to the police station. Next day, he took him to the judge. And what did he get? 3 months in jail. That's my story.
Thank you, Irshad. Thank you very much. I enjoyed hearing it again. And however hard he tried to get into jail, it's when he gave up trying, it worked. Fantastic.
I have a very quick, real anecdote to follow that, if I might. I've done a lot of work in prisons, and I met a prisoner who had intentionally put himself in. He'd been in trouble in Singapore, I think, and but not just got broke but needed to leave quickly. And someone had given him some money so he could buy an airplane ticket. And when he was asked how he could pay it back, he said, "Pass it on." And so later, his son was in England, was picked up and put in jail. And he heard that he wasn't doing very well in prison. So he thought, "I need to get to that prison. I need to be inside that prison to look after my son." So he did the similar thing to your story. He didn't want to cause harm, but he was on a suspended sentence. So if he did anything wrong, he would be put in jail. So he went to a hospital and made a noise, which got himself arrested. And he got put in one jail, but it wasn't the jail with his son in. So he found a sympathetic officer and got him transferred to the jail with his son in, and looked after him, straightened his son out, made sure his son didn't get into trouble with that. He was only in for a few months. He was an old hand at this thing, and he came out, but he looked after his son, and he thought, "I passed it on."
That was great. That was great.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, John. And Irshad, we're glad that you're making a good recovery. You look very well.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm much better. Thank you.
So now we're heading over to another good friend, Sui Yen in Singapore. Hi, Sui Yen.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Yes. It's nice to meet everybody again. And so I thank you for the opportunity to tell my story. It's really a kind of a last minute getting it ready, because I've always wanted to showcase the stories that my students made. And I had a class not too long ago, I think about almost a month. And so I only get to meet them twice in a month. And then I've got to wait another month to meet them again. It's just because of this pandemic situation where teachers, not the permanent staff, can only go into that school a few times, and I'm considered privileged already. So anyway, I'm very glad to share a story that a group of students from North Light School crafted, and I did add some things in, and I'm presenting you a story that they made. Okay, so it is a change from all the hilarious stories that you had. So bear in mind, my students are teenagers, so you know what frame of mind they are in. All right. It was Emily's birthday. Her good friends, Anna, Julie, Jessica, were invited to her house to spend the night and celebrate with her. That night was cold and rainy. Scary movie together. You see, these girls love to go out for the evening to come back late at night. Now, all the more, the children were happy. The whole house to themselves and no adults to interfere. Now, the movie that night was The Murderer and the 4 Children. It was in them, they were watching, they were enjoying, they were all huddled together on Emily's bed. They were enjoying themselves, and in the middle of it, they paused. Anna had to use the toilet. So did Julie. And then Emily decided to get more chips. Well, Jessica, she was sitting and waiting, so she decided to switch to another channel. And then her face turned pale. It was the news about a man that escaped from the prison, and the police were looking for him, and that this man had wandered into the city, the same city as the girls, and into the same neighborhood as the girls. Jessica was scared. She looked at her friends. She told her friends about it. Quickly, Emily decided to go downstairs to check on their door, the main door. Well, Emily walked down the steps, and when she was halfway, almost to the first floor, she saw that the main door was unlocked, and then wet footprints on the floor. And she heard, cling, cling, cling. Oh no, someone is in the house. Doesn't sound like mom and dad. She rushed all the way back to her room, closed the door, locked it, and she told her friends. Immediately, all went to hide. Emily went under the bed. Anna went to the closet. Jessica behind the curtains. And their 4th friend, Julie, went to the toilet to hide. They kept really silent. Then they heard footsteps, loud ones, stomp, 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 and getting louder and louder, closer to them. Quickly, they came out of their hiding place. What should we do? And then they heard the door. Someone was trying to open their door, their locked door, and then banging. Open up! Open the door! Quickly, the girls looked at each other. Where could they go? There was only one big window, and to jump down from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor, that's too high, too big a distance. And then they saw Emily's mattress. They took her mattress and they threw it out the window. The window was big enough for the mattress. They threw the mattress out, and then they looked down. They worked so well together, the 4 of them, without any argument, without any interruption from one another. They never worked so well together. They always argued, but this time they were in one. And then they looked at each other. Who's gonna jump first? While they were thinking, while they were looking at each other, they heard the door knob turn. Quickly, the 4 of them made the decision to jump. And at the same time, all 4 jumped onto the mattress. Thud, 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 thud. And then they looked up. And there was a man with a huge chopper. And he said, if I hadn't warned you, I would have had you.
Oh my goodness, Sweetan. Created together with teenagers.
Thank you. It's
Was this the
it's
same group?
partial them. Yes, it's the same group of students.
We did
Yeah,
the version of the Mary, Lady Mary story.
Yeah.
I can hear it. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. So except this time round, I gave him.
These are young
Sorry?
people with special needs. Is that right?
Yeah, with everyone has something special about them.
Yeah.
And so I had my session where they adapted my story, but this time around, I got them to freshly create a story. So, but I taught them the structure of a story, and there's a climax and all that. There's a problem in the climax.
Yeah.
So then they came up, and interestingly, almost everybody had murder in their story. But I didn't model those stories. I told other stories, but somehow they liked creating murder stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, there was a lot of suspense.
Yes.
Thank you, Sui Yen. Well, we've had fantastic set of stories from around the world, and we're coming to our final story, but don't go away, because after the final story, John Rowe will make some announcements, and also there's a chance for us to just maybe have a few words to talk about our experience of this session. So we're coming to the final storyteller of the session, and that's Veena. Thank you for being so patient, Veena.
Thank you, everybody, for being so patient. And thank you, David, for actually giving me this beautiful opportunity. It was Jyoti who nudged me this morning and said she is telling a story, and I've heard about Sangeeta and a marvelous teller. I've never met her, but I think the stories touch me because I'm also very fond of nature. So not really particular animals, but birds. So I draw a lot of birds, and so I think she's inspiring for me to draw them really well. I've just got my package from Amazon to make my cards, and hopefully I will get there. So thank you, everyone, for really being patient. I'm going to be impromptu telling. I've seen Asuk before in the Australian Guild, I think with Kiran and Poonam and Gitanjali. I've seen online again, everybody online. I haven't met them. So warm hugs from Hyderabad in India. And here I am. I was a preschool and primary school teacher. So I have been telling stories otherwise, and now I'm a volunteer at the government schools here. So I teach them through storytelling. I teach them English and motivation and everything that comes with stories. All right, this is a very simple tale from Russia. And I was so excited because I've just made some cards. So here I go with my story. Long ago, actually, in 1835, when the story was told, there lived an old man and an old woman by the sea in Russia, in a small little town called Bulan. And the old man wore some tattered clothes. His hair, white hair, was disheveled most of the time. And sometimes he was in the need of better winter clothes because, you know, in Russia, it's so cold. But they lived in a small muddy shackle, and they lived there for more than 35 years. And the old man would go out to the sea every day to cast his big black sort of untied and tied and broken net, and he used to cast it into the sea, hoping that he would get some fish for dinner that night. Well, that day he did walk to the sea, tottering on his old legs. And as he went to the blue sea, yes, it was a warm, sunny day. He got ready his little boat and he sat down on it. And he went to the middle of the sea and he cast his net. He waited for a long time. He thought, would there be something in it tonight? Well, there was something, and he pulled it, and out came a dead fish. And so he walked home with weary legs. And as soon as he walked home that night, his wife, who was a grumpy old woman, as old as he was, shouted at him, "Oh, you old bugger, what have you brought tonight from the sea?" He hung his head down and said, "Not so lucky today. I have a dead fish." "You fool," she cried. "You could have done better than that, don't you? For today we will have stale bread and watery soup again. Now you go back to the sea the next day." And so the man went back to the sea the next day. And as he walked, he hoped that he would get something better in his net that day. And what happened? Out jumped a fish, a golden fish shimmering away. And the man was so happy, but actually he was wondering, a golden fish? I've never seen one like this in the past 35 years of my life here. And so he caught the fish in his old hands. And he wanted to feel the fish. And the fish cried, "Man, oh man, I'm not an ordinary fish, you know. Let me free, and I shall grant you whatever you want." And with that, the man was kind, for he had no want for anything. And so he let the fish out to the sea again, and it swam. And so he went back and told his wife all that happened, and he was so excited. And his wife shouted back, "You fool, at least you could have asked for some better fresh bread and some butter and some meat to eat." And then that was a night again with some stale bread and some watery soup. And so this went on for another few days, and every day the man would walk to the sea, and out came the fish again. "Goldfish, goldfish." And the fish asked him, "Man, oh man, what is it that you want today?" And he said, "I have no want for anything, dear fish. But my wife would like some fresh bread and some good food for the table tonight." "Go back," said the goldfish, "if you let me free." And as he swam back, the man went back to his home for a very good dinner that night. But you know, his wife, she was a grumpy woman, and she cried, "You fool! You should have at least asked for some better clothes and this ramshackle house that we live in for the past 35 years. Now you go back to the sea next morning And the old man walked back to the sea the next morning. And as he went to the sea, the sun shone and his boat was bobbing. And he cast his net into the sea once more, hoping that the goldfish would jump out from the sea. And he told his goldfish, I don't want anything, you see, but my wife, she would like a big mansion and some good clothes to save us from the oncoming winter. And the fish said, you kind man, just let me free and I will give you what you most need. And so the man walked back, and what did he see? Was it his same house? No, it was not his ramshackle house, but a big mansion there he saw. And there the old woman, he didn't recognize her because she was wearing a beautiful shawl. And the man thought, the fish is kind indeed. But you know what? The old woman shouted out, you fool! Go back to the sea again. You should have at least brought that fish to me. Cried the man, the fish. But the wife didn't listen at all, and she said, who is going to clean this big house? I need servants here. And indeed, get that fish to me. And so the next day, the man walked back to the sea. He was, of course, indeed, in his old same clothes that he would need. And he hoped that the fish would jump out. And there it was. And the fish asked him, man, oh man, what is it that you want today? And then the man said, I have no want for anything, you see, but my wife wants some staff to clean up the big mansion that you have provided. And you must come with me. At that time, the sky thundered and lightning came and the sea roared and the waves became louder and louder till they almost came up to the man. Were they ready to engulf him there? And the man held his head down, wondering what he had done to ask from the golden fish indeed. And then the fish turned its head and swam away indeed. The man stood at the shore, looking at the thunder and the lightning and the big roaring waves. But for a long time, he waited, wondering if the fish maybe would come back again. And then he walked back to his home with dreary feet, dragging his black net all the way. His hung head low down, and what did he see? He saw his old hut, and he saw his old woman standing there, tending their bare garden with the broken spade and the wheelbarrow, for indeed They had asked much more than what a man would need. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Veena. Thank you. Veena, is this your first time at the World Storytelling Cafe?
Yes, it is.
That's a marvelous debut. And we would
I
like
was just so excited when you asked me that, will you tell me a story? I said, which story? But I have just finished painting these cards, lockdown therapy. And I thought, okay, let me go with this. And thank you so much.
It's fantastic. We've had such a wonderful variety of storytelling ways in this session, you know, from the personal story, the authored stories, the traditional stories, the modern stories, the retelling of fictional tales. It's been marvelous. And now with your, as Sui Yen commented in the chat, an almost Kamishibai style with the pictures.
Yes, I'm trying that actually.
Yeah.
And I always try to do something which I can take back to the children, because I work with government school children as a freelancer. And it's very, very satisfying for me to share whatever I have learned till today and bring out their best, because for them, they've never seen this. And yes, I've written the story behind over here on the cards.
Ah.
And I've tried to have some little rhymes there. So I hope one day I will go back to the school when it opens. I don't know when, but I do work with NGOs online, and I try to do whatever I can with these children, because we need to keep them motivated. India is a great place for us to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And may I say again, as we said earlier in the program, this all of us from the World Storytelling Cafe and the whole community are sending our very best protective and healing wishes to all of you around the world where there's the COVID crisis rages on. So thank you so much, Veena, for bringing that to us, and your wonderful rhythm and rhyme as well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So at this stage, I might hand over to the main host of the World Storytelling Cafe. I was deputising today, John Rowe, but also it'd be lovely to hear from the couple of people who didn't have a chance to tell because time went on, and thank you for being with us as well. But I'll pass to John first.
Yes, we'll open up in a second, but for the moment, I need to tell you what's going on. The most important thing for you is on the 26th of June, Saturday, is our next 10 o'clock in the morning UK time, which is much more sociable for some of you than our 6 o'clock in the evening UK time. So that's the next Asian and Australasian storytelling night. But what we have coming up is the most exciting week. And I'll go back to, I've just lost people on the Veena who said we've only met online. We're hoping in February to all go down and see Ali, who's actually been driving the bus for this last year and a half, to our storytelling our storytelling festival in Marrakesh. We're having a storytelling festival in Marrakesh in February next year. If anyone would like to come and tell, and they would like a letter of invitation, because sometimes that's easier for getting through borders, etc., etc. Email me. I'm going to put on my email address now. It's johnrowe.com, and I will send you a letter. If you don't hear from me, get a hold of David and he'll harass me. Most of you know David. So that, and on that very subject, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, everything can be viewed in retrospect. So on catch up on our archives, so you don't have to stay up and watch things. But tomorrow night, 6 o'clock UK time, Gary Cordingley is hosting our Rock the Casbah, which is our fundraising night for the festival, because we need to raise some funds for this. So it's tomorrow night at 6. Tuesday, we have, and if you have any youngs tellers that you can, you know, get up in the middle of the night to tell, we always have every Tuesday night is our 18-year-old and younger storytellers. We have two stars of our Tuesday nights on tonight, Jasname and Kamya, who regularly come on and tell stories, and they're they're magnificent. They've told today, and so but we have children from all over, so they're telling, and young people, and that's totally open. All you've got to do is turn up like you did today, but all they have to do. So if you have any young tellers that you want to get on, if they, you know, you might have to get them up at 2 o'clock in the morning or something. So that's Tuesday. Friday, you see the gentleman in the middle in the purple with the facial hair.
Lovely.
Baba C, and is our star of Friday night, and he's telling children stories for our younger viewers, for children. But I always say that, you know, there are not children's stories, because we can all enjoy stories for children, and there's and then on Sunday the 6th, we have an open the worldwide story round, which again is 6 o'clock in the evening, and you're all welcome. If you're up at 6 o'clock UK time, come and tell a story. And that's the 6th of a thing, but you know, you're welcome. And always, Ali, bless his heart, thank you, Ali, puts things up on the schedule to say what's happening, providing I tell Ali what's happening. If it's not on the schedule, it's not Ali's fault, it's mine. So you can always look at the schedule and look at stuff in retrospect. But for tonight, I'm terribly sorry that I couldn't make it earlier. I was doing a show somewhere else online. But thank you all so much for coming on tonight. You are what makes it the World Storytelling Cafe. So thank you, and thank you, Dave. Big round of applause for David Heathfield for keeping this magnificent group of storytellers under control and introducing you all. So a big round for everybody.
I did want to invite, thank you so much, John. I did just want to invite two people who've been here from the beginning. That's Babasi and Phil. If you would like to just say anything to, you've been participating quietly until this point, but if there's anything you'd like to say to the assembled company, using John's phrase.
Now, you opened that floodgate, remember that. First of all, I have been fascinated. One of the things I really like about the World Storytelling Cafe is that there's so many great storytellers and so many great styles and so many beautiful faces and so many talented younger people. I'm humbled and honored to be part of this. And I just don't stop drawing, don't stop writing, don't stop telling, especially our younger people. I know that eventually when I retire, storytellers don't retire. We just stop telling stories to the public. But I know eventually when we retire, that the torch has already been passed. That's it. I cede the floor.
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to Friday, Babasi. And
me too.
and Phil.
Yeah, thank you all very
Phil,
much.
you're in Scotland, aren't you?
I am in Scotland, yes. I'm just beside Aberdeen. Thank you very much. I love catching up with you once a month for this. I think your stories are marvellous. And yeah, just thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Phil. And Bina, did you want to say anything? Because I know you've been listening today.
Yes, I was working and listening. Okay. I just want to thank you personally for bringing my granddaughter to this stage where she can tell a story in the World Forum. I'm really, really grateful to you, David. I'm so happy. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart and to everybody. I mean, this is just a wonderful platform where we are connecting, bringing us together. Thank you, Mr. John Rambo and Mr. David and Mr. Babasi.
And just, I want to reciprocate to that, Bina, by just saying thank you for bringing storytelling to the children in Kathmandu, because that's what you're doing. It's fantastic. So does anybody else who's already told a story want to say just a couple of words before we sign off for today?
I will tell something, David. Shall I?
Go ahead, CK. Keep it brief.
Okay. I would just like to say that I am so happy to listen to very young storytellers today. I've been listening to adults, but then it was really a pleasant surprise for me to listen to Jasnama and Kimaya. You really inspired, and pleased to meet Veena ji for the first time. Others, I think I've been meeting, I've been seeing them. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, Jasnama and Kimaya once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sika. Hi.
Hi, how are you, everyone? I again want to thanks to Mr. David, John Raw, and Babasi that you are giving my daughter opportunity every time, and she narrates a story day by day. She's growing more and more so that she can continue with these things along for a long, long time, like you all. Thank you so much. I just want to say thanks. That's it. And lovely stories, all of you. Thank you so much. I enjoyed a lot. We loved this session.
Oh, thank you for the gift of your daughter. Thank you very much.
Because
without you, she wouldn't be here.
Sorry. Aman, you need to worry when she starts growing a long white beard.
Yeah. No, I'm not worried about it. If you all are there, I'm secured. I don't have anything to. She's learning a lot, and I'm giving her a little bit of idea. She's adding on. She's putting on that part. That's too good. Thank you so much.
Both Bina and Aman, you need to be very proud of your family. Right. But thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Kimaya, for again paying tribute to the storytelling of Sangeeta Sehgal, who we were remembering at the beginning of the session, and we're remembering again here at the end. And you know, the stories are passed on. The stories are passed on from generation to generation, aren't they? And you know, so many of the stories we've been told today, how many generations have they been passed through? Who knows? So we can't count them. The stories will live on. So let's keep passing them on and keep sharing, keep telling our stories. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am at least a 3-generation storyteller.
Wow.
Thank you.
And so Ali, we need to thank Ali for providing the magic carpet that has allowed us to go around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm off
Bye-bye.
to breakfast. Take care. To be continued until the next time.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you, David.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Mike.
Cheers, David.
Hi, Mike. See you, Mike.